What's up, everybody? It's Artis Anderson here, your TRM leader. I hope you're feeling good because I'm feeling great. It is relationship talk time. Listen, we've been in a series called Relationships Die Without This, okay? And tonight we're talking about part 5, which is pride, okay? So if this is your first time watching, I want to explain this a little bit. We've been talking about how relationships die without this. What is this? This is love. So relationships die without love, okay? Now, we've been going through First Corinthians chapter 13, okay? So let's go to that real quick. Just as a refresher, First Corinthians 13, that's the basis of which we've been coming from. And I'm reading the New Living Translation. In verse 4, okay, it says, love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud, okay? Or proud. So as people are coming in to watch, okay, you have the ability to ask questions. If you want to, just type it in the chat. Appreciate you all for tuning in. So I want to get right into this because I'm already late coming to you all today. So, point number 1, love is not proud. Love is not proud. As we've been saying these past 4 weeks before this week, relationships are a gift. Marriage is a gift. And we have to utilize our skill set that God has given us to be successful in these relationships and in our marriages. Why? Because it's a gift. You don't abuse a gift. You don't abuse something that is preciously helping you. You don't abuse something that is given to you for your own benefit. Okay? You don't want to do that. So tonight we're talking about how love is not proud. Simply put, there is no pride in love. Pride cannot exist in love. Okay? Pride is an enemy to love. The same way as we talked about before, how selfishness is an enemy to love. Enviness is an enemy to love. Jealousy is an enemy of love, okay? Impatience is an enemy to love, okay? We have to understand that if your relationship or your marriage is going to be successful, you have to be able to utilize true, genuine love and exercise that thing in your relationship and in your marriage. Because remember, love is not a feeling. Love is a verb, which means it's an action. Love is something you do that produces a feeling inside of the people you do things for. Same thing when it's reciprocated to you. Love is an action. It's not a feeling. Love is an action. If you're taking notes, write that down. Love is an action. Okay? So pride can never exist or sustain in your marriage or your relationship without destroying it. Pride will destroy your marriage. Pride will destroy your relationship every single time. It will not survive if pride wins out in your marriage or your relationship. So let's look at Proverbs 13. Proverbs 13, verse 10 in the New Living Translation, it says this: pride leads to conflict. Those who take advice are wise. So let's look at this from a simplistic standpoint. Pride leads to conflict. So if you take the highway of pride, guess what's down the road? Conflict, strife, problems, issues, struggle, strain. That is what you have to look forward to if pride is in your marriage or your relationship. And the only way that it can exist in your relationship or your marriage is if it exists in you. So you must get rid of the pride inside of yourself, deal with your pride issues, remove it, humble yourself so that your personal self, your individual self, does not ruin the marriage or the relationship, okay? Again, you can ask questions at any time, just type it in the chat. Now, I want you to look at Proverbs 16 now, real quick before I get into my keynotes. Proverbs 16, verse 18, here's what it says, okay? Pride goes before destruction. Pride goes before destruction. So guess what's going to happen if pride is living inside of you, or if you have prideful ways? Your relationship has destruction down the road. Your marriage has destruction down the road. Love is not proud. Translation, there is no pride in love. So when this word proud in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 4, when it says love is not proud, let's look at what this word means. It means puffed up. It means exalted beyond the ability to come down. Okay? So basically what it means is that in your marriage or in your relationship, when you have pride, or your spouse or your significant other has pride, it means they are exalting their own views, their own feelings, their own thoughts, their own perceptions, their own perspectives, and everything else about themselves above you and the marriage or relationship. Love is not prideful. As I've stated before, love is not stubborn, okay? Stubbornness is like a family member to pride, okay? Stubbornness is a family member to pride. So pride and stubbornness will destroy your marriage, and it will destroy your relationship every single time. Why? Because pride leads to conflict. Why else? Pride leads to destruction. So let's get into this. I want to get into some notes that I have written down. Pride and stubbornness, okay? Let me tell you what this is in your relationship. It's a determination, meaning you're determined. You are working hard to make sure this does not happen. A determination to not change your position, your attitude, your viewpoint, as it pertains to the health and the betterment of your relationship or your marriage. So what does that mean? It means when you are a prideful person, or pride exists in your relationship or your marriage, it means you are committed to making sure that whatever allows your relationship or marriage to prosper, you're going to make sure it doesn't. You are committed to sabotaging it. You are committed to making sure that as it pertains to health and wellness and the betterment of your marriage and relationship, you are committed to making sure it does not happen. That's what pride and stubbornness does, okay? Pride and stubbornness is a silent relationship killer in many rights. And I want to go through a few things. Pride and stubbornness is a relationship and a marriage murderer. Because prideful and stubborn people, okay, are usually set in their ways, and getting them to see things another way or do things differently is pretty much hard or almost basically impossible, okay? Prideful and stubborn people prevent healthy communication. It's hard to talk to people who are prideful. It's hard to get through to people who are stubborn. Prideful and stubborn people prevent relationship progression, meaning that your relationship and your marriage won't progress in the way it should. It won't grow and develop and prosper in the way that it can, with two individuals fusing together, becoming one, doing life together. Pride and stubbornness prevents that. Prideful and stubborn people, okay, they stop the flow of positive energy in your marriage and relationships. It's almost like whenever there's some happiness and the time comes where you have to work, you have to make a decision, or you have to discuss something, or you have to meet in the middle on a situation, it's almost like the stubborn person in the relationship or the prideful person refuses to try to even work towards a middle ground, or to work towards, you know, something that will benefit everyone or both sides or the marriage. Because see, here's the thing, love is not prideful. So at all times, you should always want to find the medium to where the relationship and the marriage benefits, and not just the one individual. Okay? Let's keep going. Now watch this. Prideful and stubborn people cut off the river of interaction. It's hard to interact with a stubborn person. It's hard to live with a stubborn or prideful person. It's hard to do any part of life with a prideful or stubborn person. You know, when it comes to relationships and marriages, teamwork is key. It's a key factor. Doing things together, like making difficult decisions. Things like making future decisions. It's very difficult to really move forward in life with somebody who is very prideful or stubborn. Okay. And so when I say it prevents or cuts off the river of interaction, what it means is you'll start to realize that the normal things that should flow in your home or in your relationship, it doesn't flow anymore. Just simple, hey, just texting each other. It doesn't flow right anymore. Or the simplicity of like joking and playing around. It doesn't flow like the river it should. Okay? We have a question. Great question. How do you deal with the prideful person? Pray for them? Great question. So let me deal with the first question. How do you deal with the prideful person? Well, let me deal with the second part of the question. Yes, pray for your spouse, pray for your significant other. That's always going to be beneficial. Now, what I want to say is, how do you pray for someone who is stubborn and proud? Here's how you do it, because you don't want to manipulate them through the spirit. You don't want to manipulate. You don't want to be manipulative in your prayer. And I don't think people do that intentionally, but I want us to be aware of it. So the prayer should sound something like this. Father, in this marriage or in this relationship, pride is an issue. I pray that you will open the eyes of the individual, open my eyes also, open both of our eyes to the prideful things that are existing. Open our hearts, open our minds to change whatever it is that is beneficial for both of us in this marriage. You want to pray along that type of language. You want it to be sincere. You want it to be genuine. You want to simply just ask God to open both hearts, open both minds, to be receptive and more willing, more aware, more loving. More importantly, you want to pray for more love. And more importantly, you want to pray that the individual and yourself in that marriage or in that relationship is able to receive God's love that will turn their heart the right way, right? So that's just a little bit of how you can pray for them. But get into the first part of the question. How do you deal with a prideful person? Here's the honest answer. You deal with them through love. It is being patient. It is being kind. It is being gentle. It is understanding that you can't change them. It's understanding that you're not going to try to do things your own way. You're not going to try to manipulate them into changing, et cetera, right? But here's the other honest answer. Sometimes you can't deal with the prideful person because there is no dealing with them. You have to understand how powerful pride is. Pride is a powerful problem that people have. Pride is so bad that God doesn't even want to deal with it. Remember, God is the one who said in his word that he can't stand a proud look. Not to get off the relationship boat, but I just want to say this real quick. Remember, Satan was kicked out of heaven because of his pride, right? So he exalted himself above everything. He tried to be more than what he was. He tried to take the place of God. So that type of pride, God doesn't deal with. So when it comes to pride, the reason why it leads to destruction and conflict and chaos is because until the individual who is prideful or stubborn sees the error of their ways, it's always going to be a struggle. And the only way you can try to break through it is by love. Love is the most powerful thing on the planet. Okay? Love is the most powerful thing on the planet. Oh, Tina, please don't cry. Oh, man. Well, listen, I want you to inbox me, okay? And we can work through this together, okay? I want you to, oh, you have no idea where I'm going. So listen, inbox me. Let's talk. Oh, Tina, hit me, text me, call me, do something. Hit me up, and we're going to work through it together, okay? We're going to work through it together. Hit me up, okay? Please hit me up. See, I'm glad. See, the reason why this series has been so important is because people are dealing with real issues in their marriages and in their relationships. And if only people would understand this type of information will break everything in their marriage and relationship as a breakthrough in a good way, right? Relationship education is so needed and necessary, okay? It is so necessary, it is so needed. So if you're watching this, go to tryforeverlove.com, the number 4, tryforeverlove.com. Hit us up. Let us help you the best way we can. Try the number 4, everlove.com. So let me keep going. Hopefully that answered the question as far as how you deal with the prideful person. That was just a few responses, okay? I didn't give all of the responses, but I hope I gave you some of the most important ones. But most importantly, remember, when you're dealing with a prideful person, it can be difficult. So you have to be patient, you have to be loving, and you have to understand more than anything. And you can't take it personally, okay? Pride is an enemy to God. It is an issue that people are dealing with that is preventing the flow of the marriage and the relationship, okay? Let me keep going. See, prideful and stubborn people cuts the cords of connection. So your relationship and your marriage, okay, is supposed to be a connection, okay? Pride breaks that connection, okay? We have another question. What if it's a parent, not so much a spouse? Great question. Number one, the parent should have no authority or place in someone's marriage. Period. Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. Two people come together in marriage, and the word tells us that the two are joined together, and they leave their father and mother. So a parent, I don't want to be disrespectful, but I want to answer the question and help you out. The parent is irrelevant. Sorry to tell you, but we love you, Mama. We love you, Daddy, and we'll see you on Thanksgiving. But you are irrelevant when it comes to my home. You can encourage me. You can give me wisdom. I might take it. I might leave it. But God has the say so in my marriage. My pastor has the say so in my marriage. Your opinions may matter sometimes, and most times they won't. But this is about me and my spouse. Now, let me give a disclaimer. There are times where people are in a terrible marriage, in a terrible relationship. Okay? Now, if you're not married, your parents can be in your relationship because you're not married. Just want to put that out there too. I don't know why I keep looking at the screen as if that's the camera. Sorry, y'all. I'm looking at the screen for the questions, right? That's right, Naomi, period. So watch this. So just to put this out here. If you're in a marriage, okay, now if you're not married, your parents can be in whatever you want. That's their right. But if you're married, some people are in very terrible, abusive relationships, manipulative relationships, all sorts of bad situations, okay? Sometimes parents are doing due diligence by telling you what you need to hear. So it's important that you be able to distinguish the difference between a parent who knows what they're talking about, who's not trying to ruin your marriage, but trying to be helpful and save save your life or save, whatever, save the situation or whatever. So I just want to put that out there. So for example, if you're being beat on and your parent is saying you need to leave that relationship or leave that marriage, yes, you should listen to your parent. But if you are in a healthy marriage and your parent and the parents or one of the in-laws are just prideful and they're trying to be nasty or negative or whatever, you need to, as respectful as possible. Matter of fact, let me give you this piece of wisdom. Whoever's mother or father it is, whoever's in-law it is, okay, that person should deal with it. For example, if I'm married, and I am, to my wife, and my mother starts tripping, my wife ain't gonna check my mama. I'm gonna check my mama. Same thing with her. If her mama is tripping, she gonna check her mama. I'm not gonna do that because that's not my place to check her mom, and it's not her place to check my mom, okay? Now, as the head of my home, if her mom ain't listening, I will step in as the head of the home. But before we get to that point, we want to be respectful and let my wife deal with her side of the family. And that's how you deal with it. That's just some free nuggets for you, okay? Hopefully that answers the question, okay? So getting back to this point, and keep asking questions if you have them. Prideful and stubborn people cuts the cords of connection. Your marriage and your relationships are a connection. You don't want pride or stubbornness to interrupt or disrupt that connection. You don't want that to happen, okay? It is very dangerous to allow pride to kill the connection that you and your spouse have, okay? Next point, prideful and stubborn people prevent growth and positive change in your relationship, okay? It cheats the relationship and the people involved of a greater future. So your marriage and your relationship should continue to grow and evolve and develop, and it should blossom into bigger and better marriage, okay? That can't happen when you have pride. That can't happen when you have stubbornness. So pride and stubbornness prevents that growth and that future positive change and development, okay? Prideful and stubborn people creates friction, okay? Remember, the only constant in life is change. You don't want pride or stubbornness to cause friction when it comes to change and growth and development, okay? That genuinely heavily affects the relationship and the marriage, okay? When you're dealing with someone who's prideful or someone who is arrogant or stubborn, I want you to be aware of this. Stubborn and prideful people only care about their points and their position in your conversations, in life, as it pertains to, decision making, etc. When you're prideful and you're stubborn, the point shouldn't be the most important thing. The person should be the most important thing. You shouldn't be trying to prove a point at the expense of your marriage. You shouldn't be willing to lose your marriage over proving a point. Okay? That's pride. A lot of times when you're arguing and fussing and fighting, that's all pride. You're just trying to win the argument. You're yelling louder. You're yelling over the person to get them to hear you because they're not listening. So you're fighting fire with fire. They do something arrogant or ignorant, and you do something arrogant or ignorant. It just becomes a tit for tat. That is so immature. Why are you allowing your marriage to go through that? You have to remember, your marriage is only going to go through what you allow it to go through. That's it. Your marriage is going through whatever you allow. How about that? So let's walk through this a little bit more. Okay? Prideful and stubborn people create arguments unnecessarily. Stubborn people have trouble admitting when they're wrong. Prideful people have tremendous struggles when it comes to being wrong. See, humility simply just says, hey, my bad, I was wrong. I apologize. Kiss, make up, move forward. See, prideful people, when you're dealing with somebody who's prideful, let me also throw this out there. Prideful people don't like to listen. Prideful people love to cut you off in conversation. They love to dismiss what you have to say. They love to just cut off in the middle of a conversation, just no respect, because their pride is taking over, okay? Prideful people will rather argue than suffer a blow to their ego. This is especially prevalent when people are in fights or arguments with their partner or spouse, okay? Listen, when you're dealing with pride, you have to understand. Let me make this point. When you're dealing with a finance issue, when you're dealing with a decision issue, that's life, okay? When you're dealing with pride, you're dealing with a whole different beast. It's a whole different monster. You can't approach it the same way. You can't deal with it the same way, and you can't handle it the same way. Pride is a powerful monster. And you have to understand, when you're dealing with somebody who has a lot of pride, the conversations don't flow normal. Decisions don't happen normal. Arguments don't happen normal, okay? It's another level of argument. It's another level to the discussion, another level to the issue, because pride is kicking in. It doesn't want to listen. It doesn't want resolution. It wants to be right. All of these different dynamics, okay? Prideful and stubborn people will resort to personal attacks. See, when somebody is prideful, instead of humbling themselves to listen and to receive and to take in and to dialogue and to find resolution, especially when they're losing air quotes, especially when they're losing an argument, or if they feel like that their decision is right and the discussion is like, no, I'm right and you don't know what you're doing, like that type of thing. That's when it kind of sometimes resorts to personal attacks. They might say something like, you don't know what you're doing, like you're not smart enough to deal with this, or you never been in my position, you never made it to my level. They start throwing out attacks. They might even start throwing out names, name calling you out your name, things of that nature. But pride is a different beast. It's a different monster, because Satan is heavily behind pride. You have to understand that God is love and Satan is pride. You need to write that down. God is love, Satan is pride. So whenever pride is winning in your relationship or your marriage, Satan is at the forefront of that, okay? Love has no pride. Keep that in mind. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is gentle. Love listens. Love isn't self-seeking. It doesn't keep a record of wrong. It doesn't demand its own way. It's not boastful. It's not jealous. It's not envious. So all of these different qualities of love, you got to remember, is all God. Anything outside of it is the enemy, okay? Prideful and stubborn people, they don't know when to let stuff go. See, there are people out here who are so prideful that they don't know when to just let a conversation be. See, sometimes you got to know when you're aggravating somebody, or when let me say that better, when somebody's getting aggravated. You have to be aware when somebody has reached their limit. You have to let off. You have to relax. Come back to the conversation later, okay? You have to know when to say when. You got to know when to stop. You have to know when to relax. You have to know when to let things be for a while, okay? Don't let pride kick in, all right? Let me keep going. Prideful and stubborn people flat out makes the relationship and marriage a constant struggle, okay? Nobody particularly likes struggling in any area of life, let alone a relationship or a marriage. But prideful and stubborn people, they make marriage a constant struggle. They make marriage and relationships a constant fight. And fighting is draining. It's toxic. It's something you just get tired of doing, right? And so remember, if you keep fighting in your relationship or your marriage, eventually you're just going to get tired of it and somebody's going to be done. Okay? But pride is the reason you keep fighting. And once you humble yourself and decide, you know what, I'm not fighting anymore. We're going to talk about this like adults. We're going to deal with this the proper way, the healthy way. You'll realize that your relationship will overcome the issue and the problem. Prideful and stubborn people constantly make the marriage a wrestle. And people don't want to have to wrestle with everything. Okay? They make it a constant constriction or suffocating a dynamic with the relationship. You know, when things become suffocating, when things become suffocating, you can be sure that there isn't much life left in that relationship. Think about anything that's being suffocated. Life, if somebody was to suffocate you right now, you only have a few minutes before you pass out or die because of the air restriction, right? Think about it that way. Your relationship needs air. It needs some type of ability to live, right, without restriction. Okay? Prideful and stubborn people make marriage a constant frustration. Like stubborn people will frustrate you if you allow them to. And nobody wants to be in a relationship or a marriage with constant frustration. Okay? Some people can't deal with that. Some people can't deal with that without getting angry or saying, you know what, I give up, or without losing confidence, or without being stressed or depressed or raging or sadness or anxiety, right? Marriage and relationships shouldn't have unnecessary pain and strife and clash. The point I'm making here is that in your marriage and in your relationship, you are in control as to whether or not your marriage is healthy and thriving or dead and sick and frustrating and stressful. But it begins with you as an individual. Okay? So with prideful people, they see things their way. You know, they fight anything new. They fight anything that's outside of their own opinion sometimes, you know. Prideful people, as I said earlier, you know, it's just one of those things where you can't, it's difficult to talk to them, right? It's almost impossible to get through to them, you know. And you know, to be honest, I'm just thinking in my head about some things, but to be honest, you know, a lot of people that I help in my consultations, you know, getting people to apologize, good luck sometimes. You know, pride is a powerful thing, even when somebody's wrong. For example, when somebody's caught cheating or caught in the wrong, humility would cause that person to say, you know what, I got caught, I lied, let me man up, let me woman up, let me just deal with this the right way. Prideful people, they just don't concede, you know, or they halfway concede. And let me put this disclaimer out there. Some people deal with massive amounts of pride. Some people have small amounts of pride. And not all pride is necessarily destructive per se, even though pride leads to destruction. Some people have a small amount of pride that, you know, if they go down that road, they have the sense enough to say, you know what, I'm wrong. Before I get to destruction, let me deal with this. Let me deal with myself, right? That's right. Yes. Prideful people love to blame other people, right? It's almost becomes narcissistic in nature. It's where they become so self-absorbed that they can do no wrong, and that it's always the other person, or the other person calls me to do this, and you know, that type of ordeal, right? As I wrap up, I just want to say this: pride and stubbornness, it drains the marriage, it drains the relationship. Okay. It can cause the relationship to be stagnant, okay? Because new ideas aren't being accepted, new ideas aren't being attempted, new ideas aren't being explored. It can be stagnant because conversation is no longer flowing. It can be stagnant because the connection is no longer there. Pride is so powerful. It's such a deep issue that it can disrupt everything about your marriage and your relationship, right? Pride and stubbornness has long-term effects like abandonment, resentment, massive emotional problems, mental problems. It can cause disconnect in gigantic amounts, right? Or proportions, rather. And just to elaborate a little bit, if you can imagine loving someone, right? But not being able to talk to them and being so frustrated at that point, or being so, angry or sad that there's such a resentment or a disconnect, right? That you can carry that in your life in other areas, That's why it's important that we deal with our personal issues, right? In our marriages, in our relationships, because we can't continue to use an excuse that other people are the reason we are the way we are. We have to deal with ourselves. We have to deal with ourselves. The day comes where you can't blame anybody else anymore. That day does come, right? So it's important that we understand that. While we understand pride and stubbornness can create problems, you are in charge of your own personal self, okay? So let me wrap this up. People will eventually get tired of dealing with pride and stubbornness, okay? And the relationship and the marriage will erode. It will destruct, okay? Period. People get tired of trying, and eventually, right? People get tired of trying. They get tired of it. So eventually, what do? What do? They shut down. They leave, okay? Because they feel unappreciated. They feel unheard. They feel uncared for. So in dealing with somebody who is stubborn, you have to express these types of things to them. Hey, listen, I don't feel loved. I don't feel heard. I don't feel like I can get through. And you have to do it at the right time. Don't do it when don't do it when they just, when they're angry or when something blows up or an argument. That's not the time to say these things. The time to say it is when it's calm. And I know sometimes even when it's calm, it's not the best. Sometimes it's just impossible to get through to somebody, but you have to have that conversation. You have to let them know, hey, listen, I'm at a point where I'm feeling unheard. I'm feeling, like I can't talk to you. The connection is gone. I feel like you have a pride issue and it's causing problems in the relationship, For many people in a relationship with a stubborn person, it's just easier to just give in at the moment. And that's what a lot of people deal with. You just, you just give in so much every single time. Eventually you realize you're not happy. So if you are the person watching this or listening to this, right? Or anything of that nature, if you're the stubborn person or prideful person, understand that the person you're with is going to get tired. They're going to get tired of it. And if you're the person who's on the end where the other person is the stubborn person or prideful person, understand that you have to let them know where you stand. Don't wait till the end to tell them. Tell them when it starts happening, okay? Couple more points. The reason why you can't just give in and you have to communicate these things is because giving in creates a false perception of acceptance, meaning you're basically telling them this is okay. You're telling them that you're meeting my expectation by not saying something. You're telling them that, hey, this is my standard and you're living up to it. You are agreeing to their behaviors. So the less you say, the more you are giving them power to keep doing it to you, okay? Now, the last thing I want to say is that stubbornness and prideful people, they think it's a form of strength. They think they're being strong. They think they're having a, they think they're having, they think that they're blah, blah. They think that they are having, why can I say this? They think that it means they have a backbone. That's what they think. But in actuality, it just displays you're insecure. It displays that you're weak. It displays that you're hurt. It displays that you have no concept of true love. It just displays that you don't know how to function properly or healthy in a healthy way in a relationship. You don't know how to listen. You don't know how to receive. You don't know how to change your mind. You don't know how to be receptive to change. You don't know how to be open to things changing at the drop of a dime. It reveals that you love to be in control. And that's a big issue. You are a controlling person who is prideful. People and stubborn people love to control things from a passive aggressive way. So all in all, hopefully you learned something tonight. But love is not proud. Love is not stubborn. Love is giving. Love is bending. Love doesn't mind bending a little bit. Because love will never break. But it doesn't mind bending a little bit. Love is open. Love is willing. Love is receptive. So I want to encourage everybody out here. Prideful people are difficult to be in relationships with. Prideful people are difficult to be married to. So I encourage you to seek out help, seek out someone to talk to. If you don't have anybody, contact me, tryforeverlove.com, the number 4, everlove.com. Set up a free consultation. Let's get connected. Let's talk. Let's work some things out, okay? But more importantly, understand that if you want your marriage or your relationship to survive or last, you got to be willing to drop the pride and humble yourself. Both parties must be humble, okay? And keep in mind that sometimes we might think the other person is the prideful person, but it might actually be you. Love y'all. See y'all soon. Do we have any more questions before I log off? Oh, okay. Wow. Appreciate that. Thank you, Z. My wife has just put the website in. I'm glad you was able to click on. Connect with me. Holler at me. We're gonna get it right. All right. See you all soon. And we are out. Love y'all. See y'all next Wednesday.